Good morning, friends. Welcome to another edition of my podcast. Used a provocative title to get the attention of you guys today, and I think it's appropriate because modesty is something that is it's such a novel word by today's standards. I wonder if people actually think what modesty is and if they're being modest, particularly members of the female persuasion. And I'm gonna base my podcast today on a sermon I heard. I'm gonna take my own take on it. We all have a spin on what we think would be better about a sermon or what you think should be the emphasis. But here I go with it. I think women today, when they dress publicly, should take something into occasion. I think it's realistic that women want to look attractive. I mean, women feel good about themselves when they look good, and if somebody tells them they look pretty. So I think it's okay for women to wear clothing that flatters themselves and makes them look good. I think also women should realize, and they probably do, that men are very sexual beings. They have very greatly sensitive to sexual stimuli. So I think women in general, and even society, would generally agree that there are certain standards as far as what clothing is appropriate to wear and what is something that is um, in some way calling attention only to sexual thoughts. Having said this, here would be my take on what I think is a good benchmark for modesty. Are women wearing clothing that singles out only their most prized sexual assets, like their bosom or their butt, or anything that really just it makes men look at that directly? Or are women wearing something that may show off certain sexual characteristics, but they're doing that in a way that is not emphasized, but they're trying to show off the whole package, so to speak, to make themselves look good. Yet it may indirectly lead some men to have lustful thoughts just because they have certain characteristics that are attractive, sexually attractive. Um, and I use this example because I don't think we want to really give in to the idea that because somebody has a propensity to maybe fall into lust or could be falling into lust, that the whole society as a whole, particularly women, would have to dress in a way that would make it certain that men could not lust. We don't want to. We're not an Amish country. We don't live in a Muslim world. We don't want to throw a burlap sack over our women and just show their face so men can't even have an idea what their body looks like. I don't think many of us agree with that, and I don't think we should, because I think in some ways there's the old adage: if you get a problem, kind of buck up or man up with it, and maybe if it's really a problem, you just have to seek God in a way to help you overcome lustful thoughts to women. And I know that society's pushing sexual stimuli at men in a way that's difficult for men to avoid thinking sex about women. Yet I think, and I use this case in point, something that happened to me recently. It was a summer day in church, and a woman, young woman, was wearing a sundress, and the sundress was perfectly appropriate for the time. It wasn't cut overly low, or it wasn't either way, but it was, a sundress. Yet because it was a sundress, there was a small degree of cleavage that was showing, and her legs were shapely and they looked good. Yet at the same time, she was wearing a dress where she was not trying to just show off her body. She had her makeup done right, her hair looked right, and she looked like a very attractive young woman. I think she was trying to package herself that way. She has the right to do that, and I think it's actually, a good thing to go out in public looking nice. Yet because she had a nice figure, and there was some skin showing. It was the summer. It wasn't the winter. Part of me was saying, "Wow, she looks hot." But you see, the fact of the matter is, because she was giving me a small degree of sexual thoughts, that I should just tell her, you shouldn't wear that because you're encouraging me to lust. No, that's not the way. That's not the way it goes. I have to be a big boy. I have to deal with that. As Christians, we can't just try to avoid anything out there that makes it difficult that makes it easy for us to fall into sexual frustration or lust or whatever. Um, Women have a right to be women. On the other hand, women should also recognize that if you want to be respected by a man, you don't want to package yourself in a way that clearly would put a big poster on you that I am a sex object. I don't want you to think of me that way. I want you to think of me as a whole person, respect me as a woman. But I'm coming at you with the big, I am a sex object look. I get the big hooters pointed out because I got a push-up bra on, or I got tight, 3 sizes too small jeans on to show how nice my behind is. That's just inappropriate, and it's a mixed message to the guy. On the one hand, you want a guy to take you seriously, treat you well, maybe be monogamous, hopefully get married, have a family and all this. Yet you're showing off yourself as somebody who's on a BET video, an MTV dancing video, and just men struggle with sexual imagery and lust in women. And if you package yourself that way, is it surprising that a lot of times men have a disconnect between thinking of women in a way that is not sexual? I think not. So ladies out there, I would use this as a benchmark. You should not have to be so fearful of showing your body to a man that you can't look nice. But I would just say, well, as you're wearing something, when you use the word modesty, it's just that. Is it going to immediately cause a man to think you're naked? Or is it going to be such that, well, men can see that I'm attractive and I have a good figure, but they're not going to be so distracted that their eyes can only go to one place or 2 places. They can actually look at me and engage in a conversation with me. That would be my idea about modesty. And people who would argue that and say, women should be in a burlap sack, I just think that's kind of a silly idea, because where does it end? And where do we give in to the whole idea of potential tyranny? If somebody has trouble with alcohol in a church, does that mean that they can't ever go over into a house and everybody has to put all the liquor and hide it away? It's just, as Christians, we need to be recognize we are in the Lord. God has given us a new mind. We're a new creation, and any potential sin that we have to recognize that it's in the world. Yet we don't have to engage in it. Martin Luther once said, just because the birds are flying over your head doesn't mean we have to allow them to nest in our hair. And that's where I would go with that. And till next time, thanks for joining me. Johnny W. Bread, so long.